All right. My dad tries to be Christ-like. My dad is very religious. The man quit his job as a show salesman to become a minister. Not the pastor of a church, the guy who approaches you on the street and says things like, you know what's great? Ice cream. Ice cream and Jesus. That was his sales pitch. I think my dad didn't just want to serve the Lord, but was incredibly impressed by him, so much so that he wanted to be just like him. Usually it was stuff that could be easily ignored, him going to church every time it was open, talking to my friends about Jesus, building a giant cross and carrying it around downtown Houston. You know, stuff that made you kind of shrug and say, well, that's just my dad. There was one episode that got kind of weird, though. He read the Bible every morning at breakfast out loud. On this particular morning, it was the story of Jesus walking on water. In case you don't know the story, here's the short Timmy Wood version. Jesus' disciples go on a boat without Jesus. A storm comes and they freak out. They see a figure walking on the water and they freak out some more. The figure claims that he is Jesus and they need to calm the F down. Peter, being the douchebag he was, says, well, if you really are Jesus, then call out to me and tell me to meet you. Jesus can't lie, so now he has to call Peter out and make him walk on water. Peter does, gets scared, starts to drown, but Jesus saves him. Hooray, now millions of pastors in the world can use this story to illustrate faith, keeping your eyes on the Lord, when really it's a story about a guy tempting God and almost drowning. My dad read that story and paused. He looked at us with this fire behind his eyes and this big smile on his face. Tim, today I'm going to walk on water. You'd think that he would start praying to get the faith to do so, but my dad was practical. We headed down to the Builder's Square. He bought all sorts of things, flotation devices, blocks of styrofoam, some towels. We then headed to the beach. Not a pool, not the lake, but the beach where there are waves. We arrived. He took the box of styrofoam and started cutting into them, making feet-shaped indentions. He was turning them into shoes. Next, he blew up the flotation devices and wrapped them around the foam shoes. He then walked toward the surf, preparing to follow in the footsteps of his idol. As I'm sure you may now have guessed, it did not work at all. Not even a little bit. Even if he could have stayed afloat, there was no way he could have kept his balance. It was ridiculous. He would try to walk and then he would fall over in the water. I realized that my dad had been successful at one thing that day. He'd emulated a Bible character. It wasn't Jesus, it was Peter. Thinking he was doing the right thing, but really just tempting God and looking ridiculous for it. My dad wanted to be Christ-like, but really, he was just Peter-like.